Good evening, everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got gas. The great American auto scene. We've got Giggly and Octane. I don't know if she put nitrous in her bra tonight or what it is.
Nitrous
but she's just a little out of, I don't know what she's out of, but she's out of it. She's just out of it. Bruce Barker over on the other side. He's trying to get things settled up, and he's moving around and around and getting things going.
We'll
He's
talk
got
about this shirt in a while.
We will. Dover Dragster. We got a great shirt. And we're going to talk to a gentleman who owns a car that I remember from when I was a kid cruising Van Nuys Boulevard, and he's got the car. He's restoring it. It is a car that made the national scene in CarCraft magazine. He'll tell us a little bit more about that, and he'll tell us a little bit about how he's putting this thing back together again.
Wow!
And it has been sitting for over 3 decades.
Holy!
But inside a garage, so it's worn but not destroyed.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking to Larry about this in just a little bit. Anna, what's been going on with you? I understand you've got yourself a new car.
Yes, I got a pedal car named 13.
13.
Yeah, another one. They're breeding at my house. They're all just going to be sitting around the fireplace.
Now, 13 might be watching or listening. Do you have a favorite pedal car?
Yes,
Yes,
13. Lucky 13.
Lucky 13,
maybe?
but she's looking for names that
Yeah.
incorporate
I need
13.
names. Yeah.
Now, it's got to be family general neutral. So we can, because she's going to be at a lot of car shows, and there's going to be families and kids and such around. Yeah. It also may end up at the pedal car drags.
Yes, and it's going to be at Drag Fest and the Rockabilly Extravaganza, and the kids can come sit in it and race around in it. And, we're actually going to push the pedal cars down in front of the grandstands at Famoso
Really?
in April. Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be cool.
They're going to let us do that.
At Drag Fest.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Drag Fest. Randy Winkle.
Yep.
Stormy Bird. You.
Blake Bowser,
Blake
you.
Bowser, me, yes. We're all going to be up at Famoso, famous
I
Auto
am.
Club Famoso. There you are. You're straddling your pedal car.
Yeah, I'm being...
That's your gasser one.
Yeah, that one's called All Jacked Up.
That's a really cool car, though.
Yeah, and that is
Yes.
the
That's
school
not yours,
bus.
though.
No, that's my partner Sergio Prado's stroller. He does custom strollers.
Oh, that is so
And
neat.
he wins so many awards with those. The lights work. I mean, it's
Custom-
crazy.
I'm going to have to talk to you about that. I've got 2 grandkids now.
Oh,
Wow, this would be
do
perfect,
custom
Bob.
strollers. Yeah.
I love the fold-out windshield on
I
it.
know.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. The cool school bus.
He did a BMW something or other and won the Grand National
Really?
Roadster Show.
The Bavarian Money Waster pedal car? Oh, my
There's
gosh.
our little show at Rockabilly Extravaganza. That's coming up in November.
Now, you see the little orange one you've got in the front there? Mm-hmm. I have one like that at home. I restored for my oldest son back when he was a year or 2 years old. I've got it in the garage now. It is definitely worse for wear, but I want to go through it and restore it. So this might be an opportunity to have it done by April for
Drag Fest?
Drag Fest. I'm not going to let kids ride in it because it's
We could put it on display.
But we could. I'll have to look into what I'm going to do on it.
And the guys like the patina on. There's me being ridiculous.
There's you.
You are just so
And
posh.
Busting out all over there.
There you go. I went to a race a few months ago,
There's all jacked
and a
up.
buddy of mine has your sticker on his toolbox.
Yes, we call it
check it
toolbox porn.
Toolbox porn, yes.
Well, it reminds me a bit of the the old World War II aircraft when they had each one would have a different.
I had something to do with this car.
Look at what it says on the back.
Right in the middle.
Kiss my gas, except
your
it's not
gas.
spelled with 2 A's.
No, it's only singular. At that point in time, we didn't have our relationship that we have now.
Yes.
That's right, but
But we have the AAA sticker for you.
Had and at that point in time, I had these flame AAA stickers that I was giving out, and we put one right in the center. It kind of finished off the back end.
Yes.
it really does.
Yeah. Now she's. Never mind. I'm not going to say a word about
That is the. Let's quickly move on.
Yes. Moving right along.
That is the Automobile Driving Museum.
Oh, down in El Segundo.
And they let us put up a display.
Man, I just
And-
got the new E-Blast from those guys. I'm trying to remember what they got going, but what a great
They got-
place.
Yeah,
got-
we did the Gasser event there. It was so much fun.
They've got something going just about every weekend now. Now, if you're in the Southern California area and you want to go down
There's
to the
Sergio.
driving museum at El Segundo, they actually, on the weekends, take out at least 2 cars and we'll drive you around in them.
Yeah.
Everything in the museum is operational.
That is so amazing. And the fact that you could jump into something like that, well, when I say like that, it could be like anything.
Well, when I went through it, I was in a 1946 Packard.
Oh, man.
And now I realize why I like my Plymouth so much.
Yeah.
Well,
Lot
you know
smoother.
that nobody really does the smaller events for kids. That's how we got into the pedal car
Well,
thing.
that's cool.
To get the kids involved. Now you see that little fire truck?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is an original 1930 display for a Ford dealership.
Holy
Really?
cow.
Yeah, and then
Wow.
the little pink one
Is that yours too?
No, those three belong to Tom Cunningham, who's one of my fabricators.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The little pink one is the one we let the kids in. The Wild Child was from the Grand National Roadster Show.
Mm-hmm.
And the display is just, that's just a collector's item.
Cool.
I wonder, was it already dressed in firefighting livery? I mean, back in the day,
Yeah.
it was a
Wow.
fire truck from day one.
Yeah, the only thing we had to do was replace the ladders because they had disappeared somewhere. But,
Well, yeah, because they came off, so they're disposable.
but it's a happening thing. I mean, we're doing pedal cars and strollers. That is the one that one sold for $1,500
Hey.
at the
Oh, there's a pedal car in the picture.
Yeah. That's Pinot Pink from Japan.
Pinot Pink from Japan.
Pinot Pink.
Pinot Pink.
And she is a pinup model from Japan.
Really?
And she came out to West Coast Customs Cruising Nationals
Wow.
with the Sakuragi brothers with Gene Winfield.
Oh.
And so that's Ventura Nationals for the pedal car cruise. But people are doing the strollers and the pedal
that's
cars, and they're even keeping the patina and or
really?
painting them. And it's fun. The kids are really, they're the future of hot rodding,
They
right?
are. They are. You start them out like this. And look at that.
Yeah,
Teardrop
isn't that
trailer.
great? Look at that.
See, now I made a trailer for my kid. What we used to do, instead of having a stroller, we had the pedal car. I'd tie a rope around the steering column,
Yeah.
and I would pull him. He had to steer.
Oh,
So he became part of it.
Yeah.
And then we made a little trailer to tow behind it
Yeah.
to pick up the brochures and everything else we were picking up along the way. And strangely, it fit a six-pack.
Oh, I don't know how you might have found that out because I'm certain you never carried a six-pack.
Only 6 packs of Pepsi for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those are heavy. They're not that
Yeah.
light.
No.
So you really have to haul them around. But look at her. She's so happy. And that's actually my niece and my nephew cartoonized, animated.
really cool.
I don't know that much of a cartoon.
Well, they actually fight. They sock each other to sit in those cars. They're
Really?
Yeah, so they each have to have their own. That's my art for my
Oh, I
poster.
remember this.
Squingo was gonna do.
Yeah.
And there's the famous Famoso mob themselves.
Yeah,
The king and queen. The king and
Yeah.
prince.
Yes, and the full-size pedal car in the background.
They're
Yeah.
hosting Drag Fest, so they're going to let us push the kids down in front of the Grand. That's
yeah, I got
Daisy
distracted
Fairlane.
too. Yeah.
Back up, Bruce. That's Daisy Fairlane.
Yeah.
She's one of our event.
Yeah.
Isn't she cute?
Yeah, I've seen her.
What legs
doing
on
a lot.
her.
Yeah, they go all the way from her feet to back of her
She's hot.
bottom.
Daisy's hot.
Yeah, I've seen her in a lot of photo shoots.
Yeah.
There's the old line, the Rod Stewart song, Hot Legs. The
Yeah.
line goes, "You got legs right up to your neck."
She has
Yeah.
a rockin' figure.
Well, kind of reminds me of what was that movie with Burt Reynolds, or was it the Australian guy?
See, now I'm blanking.
Dundee, Crocodile Dundee.
No, not that
Burt
one.
Reynolds.
Oh,
Oh,
Mel
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson wearing hose. He was the advertising guy.
Something about that's familiar. I think it
don't
might have been Mel
remember.
Gibson, but
I think it was Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
But it was a movie where he was a advertising guy. Then all of a sudden he got he could read people. He could listen to what people were thinking about. And he's in the back room and he's trying to come up with an ad campaign, and he's wearing pantyhose, kind of like Joe Namath
remember
did.
that.
Well, see
This
now-
is the first
Anyway,
one.
moving
This
right
is
along.
Zoom. She Zoom started the whole craze. That
Yeah.
was actually a body that was pinstriped by Scratch and had been hanging
Really?
on the garage wall for 10 years, and I ended up with it, and I had a full-blown suspension put on it. Stormy built that, and that is a little peanut can from Bevmo as the gas tank. And then we've got PVC pipe.
Yeah.
And for the collectors
And
and,
the
the
header.
and then those are little ping pong balls on top of, with chain in them.
Sounds
what
good.
would we do without PVC?
I don't know. I'll
You
tell you
can
what.
do anything.
Let's get back to this in a little bit. But
Okay.
we've got Larry on the phone right now.
I
and
want
we've got-
Larry's car.
We got a great story about this car because, like I said, I remember this car from my days on Van Nuys Boulevard when I was a kid, and this car was cruising Van Nuys Boulevard. The owner of the car, Gary, was a member of the LA County Street Racers. It wasn't the Brotherhood of Street Racing at that time; it was LA County Street Racers, and he was a member. were, and so was I in my younger days. The statute of limitations passed, so I can admit it. But, and I remember this car. I remember cruising Van Nuys Boulevard, and then it was in CarCraft magazine, and that was the first famous car I had really ever seen up close. And right now we got Larry on the phone with us. Larry, how you doing today?
Great, Bob. How are you?
Doing great. You know, when I saw your post about this, that you have it and you're restoring it, that just really excited me because I knew it'd been sitting in Gary's garage for decades. How did
right.
you?
Isn't that a sexy car?
That is such a great car.
I want that car. Please bring that over to my house and let me lick it.
Yeah. Anna, there goes our PG rating. Oh.
So I would like to do a story on that for Old School Rods magazine.
She's serious, Larry.
Seriously.
She's the editor.
I'm the editor.
That would be fantastic. I've been trying to get some exposure on it. The car has been sitting for a long time. It doesn't have that paint scheme at this time. That paint scheme only lasted for 3 years, from 1968 to 1971.
Really?
Here, yeah, we're seeing on the screen now a picture of the car as it sat just before I hauled it out of the garage at Gary's house.
What happened? Why did Gary take the lettering off the car?
In 1971, he was living in Arcadia. Mm-hmm. Or Monrovia, and there was an earthquake, and there was a rim sitting up on the shelf above the car, and it came down on the driver's side rear fin, and it split the seam, and it was just the repairs were too much to save the scheme, so he repainted it really quickly with every intention to put the lettering back on, and that was in 1971, and it just never happened.
Yeah, and then the car sat in his garage is what I read a while back.
Those damn earthquakes always ruin paint jobs, don't they?
We got to get Mother Nature to start taking her earth control pill.
Earth control.
That's fantastic. Gary actually retired himself in 1988. He came down with a medical issue and he could no longer run NHRA. But he had put his heart and soul into the car. He just, everything he had, he poured into it, and he couldn't let it go, so it sat from 1988 until he offered it to me in 2015.
Well, bless your heart for preserving and restoring vintage American steel. Because it's guys like you that keep this going forward, and we just appreciate, all your efforts that you do to restore cars like this.
Now, so you got this
fantastic thing.
So you got this car in just a few years ago.
Yeah, actually, he offered it to me in the summer of 2015, and after several months of negotiations, I was able to bring it home in December of 2015, and so I've had it since then, nearly 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I had to really take my time. Honestly, every part on the car except for the body and the dashboard is 100% handmade custom.
Oh, man.
So I had to figure out not only what they did, but why they did it. Mm-hmm. So it was like, kind of like a diamond cutter staring at a stone for months before he makes the first cut.
Yeah.
It took me a little while to, even steel my nerves to get to the point where I wanted to start tinkering. And it took quite a while, all through the spring and summer of last year, before I was really even to a point where I was going to turn the ignition, and that was a brief spell there too. And I finally got it started in February of this year. Actually, fired it up and tried it out. I've been taking it to car shows since May, local shows, and I cannot believe how much interest there still is in a car that was built in 1966.
Well, it was so unique back then, and like I said before we actually started, I remember Gary taking the thing down Van Nuys Boulevard, because that was a street licensed car.
Yes, it was. It was actually, I have the last known tags from it were in 1994, and that's sitting with all the other memorabilia I have from the car, and it was a California license plate. He came over here to Arizona, where I'm residing now, in 92, and it was tagged through 94.
Wow.
But he hadn't put it on the street for a long time. He had done some things to it to make it not really street legal. I mean, it has the little zoomy straight pipes on it, and he removed the front brakes to take weight from the front end.
Yeah.
I have 2 sets of rear brakes, the steering brakes and foot brakes.
Right.
Are you going to go to wheel stand or driving school to learn how to drive that thing?
That's gonna be.
Is there such a thing?
No, I don't think so. I think if you went to Frank Hawley, he'd go, "You want to do what?" I mean, that was a lost art too.
Yeah, the driving it's a lost art.
I'm trying to revive that. I've got a pretty strong community out here in Arizona. Bob Riggle from Hemi Under Glass resides out here.
Yep.
And I know quite a few people just from social media that have wheel standers, and I think I'll be able to make a go of it. Now, this was never going to run on an NHRA track. I would have to make so many modifications that it would lose its vintage appeal.
Well, you can run it under exhibition, can't you?
No.
No?
It won't even pass
No.
tech.
No,
The
it
tech,
won't pass tech.
Yeah, tech back in those days was a lot looser than it is today.
Hell, take it to the street.
I mean, tech is the street. No, that's an amazing car to be driven on
I
the
like
street. You. Yeah.
Thank you.
She's a car nut. She's just nuts anyway, but the car part is always part of it. Well, like I said, I don't remember when Gary was driving that on the street back in the 70s, whether it had the fuel injection on it or not. I really don't remember looking at the motor back in those days. I just remember watching him go down Van Nuys Boulevard, and I thought that was the most amazing thing. Especially after now, do you have the CarCraft issue that Gary appeared in with the car?
I do. I have the CarCraft issue, and I also have the Hot Rod magazine. And it was the centerfold of Hot Rod with no story attached.
Oh, okay. Now, if I remember,
well, I get first dibs on the. I get first because Hot Rod's going to want it back, and I want it for old school rods.
Just if I remembered correctly, Gary was sitting on the tailgate of that thing, and he had a huge handlebar mustache.
Yes, he did have a handlebar mustache.
Okay.
Does he still have it?
And
No.
no, he actually right now he's clean shaven, and I did send Bob some pictures currently, and one of them has Gary in the picture, and a couple of them have myself too. I don't know if those are going to show up on the screen, but right now he's fairly clean shaven. Almost the entire time I've known him, he's had a full beard and mustache.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to pick him up for a car show, and I pulled up, and I hadn't seen him for a few weeks, and he was totally clean shaven. I was like, who are you?
Yeah, who are you? And what'd you do with Gary? Yeah.
Well, here's what's cool about that car. First of all, it's a wagon wheel stander,
Right.
and it's a Nomad, which is very collectible. And it's
Right.
cool.
And
I mean, oh my God, you hit the mother load on that car.
yeah, it's fantastic working, and there's lots of skid marks in front of my house.
Yay!
When I have it out front. And my neighbors are like, you got a lot of traffic stopping in front of your house. I'll be out there working on it, and people will come up and, hey, what's the story on this? It's a really cool gasser. I'm like, actually, it's not a gasser. It's kind of got the profile, but it's a wheel stander. And so I have to go into the whole story. And
See, but that's great. You're educating people about part of the history of drag racing with that car.
Absolutely, absolutely. And eventually, this was built in 1966, and I haven't been able to document it, but it appears that it's the first car ever to be turned into a purpose-built wheel stander. I'm not sure on that, though. I know there were some pickup trucks before it.
Yeah, there was
Little Red Wagon.
The Little Red Wagon, the backup pickup.
Right.
The Hearst Hemi Under Glass, the first one that Bob Riggles got involved with. I believe it was the 1964 or 65 Barracuda.
Gene Schwartz had one too back east. I'm sorry.
I was thinking that Bob's came out in '67. That's
that
what
was
I heard.
that was the third generation. A second or third
That was the
generation
third
one.
generation?
Yeah, the first one they called it the
Okay.
Hearst Hemi under glass because you had that 14 cubic foot rear window on the back of the first Barracudas.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
A couple of engineers or someone drew a concept on a paper napkin. And they said, well, why not?
Really?
And they initially didn't build it to be a wheel stander. It was to go into the AFX class. The problem was
Wow.
it couldn't keep the front end down on the ground. So it started a whole movement of wheel standing. And by the way, if you see Bob, tell him I've got what's left of one of the taillights when he rolled.
Yeah, I got to see that car, and that was kind of impressive.
I think that was the most exciting thing Jay Leno ever did.
Well, it's the most. I'll tell you what. If he didn't have heart disease, it's a good thing he didn't have heart disease after that one. But yeah, as many people know, I work at Irwindale Drag Strip and the Speedway, and I came into work that day or the day after they did the shoot, and the marketing guy comes over, hands me an envelope, and I go, "What's that?" He goes, "It's what's left of the Hearst Hemi under glass." I go, "What?"
Oh man.
But we couldn't say anything because it happened. It happened in February, and I don't think the show came out till April or something like that.
Wow.
Right.
I've got a
Gary
piece of-
called me up
Oh,
and right after it happened, and he's like, "Hey, I've got some wheel stander news." And he's like, "My mechanic has a car in his shop you got to see." So I went over there and took a look at it. And of course, I had to stay tight-lipped myself.
But if you're going to roll, you want to roll with Wriggle
well, you know,
in that
Exactly,
car.
exactly.
Because all he says is, shit.
yeah. But he was so calm through the
Damn.
whole thing. You got Leno flailing around.
Yeah.
Luckily, he pulled his arm in because
Right.
we were looking at that and going, he has his hand out the window. It's holding onto the roof.
God bless him.
I go, what was he doing? Yeah, that was even before we knew it rolled. And we were looking at that going, what is he doing? But,
And then, and what Bob goes, damn,
yeah.
very quietly.
Yep. Back to the Silverado, though. So you've got it running and driving at this point.
I do have it running and driving. I actually have been flat towing it to some local shows, and just like old school.
Yeah.
And driving it into the show. And I've been doing quite a few this summer. I've attended 8 different ones, and I've got a couple coming up. I've got one in Glendale. A gentleman has a private show, and he sent me an invitation. He came up from the valley to see me at a car show because he had heard the car was at the first show I did.
You know, this will probably be an obvious question, but one of the shots that we saw here, the engine has Toronado valve covers. I'm going to assume, because I'm traditional drag racing is about all I can relate to in terms of this, and this is not traditional. Wheel standers have to have the engine in the rear for weight purposes to get the nose in the air, correct? So,
Pretty much, yeah.
And you mentioned earlier steering brakes. So what you're talking about is this car's got the engine in the back, and it's driving the rear wheels using a sort of a front drive setup, but, driving the back end instead.
Right. The wheels are pinned solid so they don't turn anymore because it is a front-wheel drive system out of an old Toronado.
Yeah.
And when you're up in the air, NHRA mandates that you have steering control. So they originally had a skid steer, side-to-side one, and then they decided to put in independent cylinders for the rear brakes and add a second set of calipers. They're Hearst Earhart calipers straight out of the 60s.
Wow.
And so I've got two sets of them. One is the regular foot pedal, and one is the steering brakes. And on the screen, a couple of shots back, you see these 2 big Hearst shifters.
Yeah,
And
those were
are
hot.
Not,
I like those.
I'm not going to say why.
I can't help it. I look at cars the way men look at women. They're just hot. I like
Yeah,
their
you definitely have to
parts are
call me.
appealing to me.
I'm not going to ask what you see there.
So
the little one, the little shifter is actually the gear shift. The top 2 are the big 2 are steering brakes, and you just rest your hand lightly on them. And if you start to veer to one side, you just barely put some pressure on the opposing side, and it'll drag you back.
You just gently caress those, and that's all that you need. I love those.
Larry, you didn't realize you were calling into an X-rated show, did you?
I'm going to volunteer to be
You
a
know what?
regular.
I have to tell you, I grew up on Van Nuys Boulevard doing illegal street racing, and we had a group of guys called the Street Racers. And I don't think it's the L.A. Street Racer.
Yes.
It was you.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you look at one of the photos of
Yeah.
Gary's car in the back of it, his jacket's there. And that's how I initially met. I mean, I saw the car on Van Nuys Boulevard, but then I actually got to meet Gary back in those days because he was one of our organizers, or Sergeant of Arms. And I've still got my jacket. I can't get in it, but unless I lose another 50 pounds or more. But Gary was one of the LA County Street Racer guys at that time, and we were part of a relatively large club. Not all of us street raced, preface that. We were just a group that met on Van Nuys Boulevard and went other places afterwards. But
Yeah, we won't say where.
No.
That's where I would win money and buy shoes. And that's why they call me heels high, cars low. Because I would be the decoy driver, and then the guys would want to race me instead of the car. And then we'd say, no, you have to race the car, not the girl. And then they'd, win, and I'd make $40 and go buy shoes.
So, Larry, do you have any plans of making it out to Southern California for a show?
I plan to make it out at some point, but I've still got quite a ways to go. I'm seriously considering doing the original paint scheme and with the graphics on it.
Oh, good.
Yes, please.
I just touched base with the guy who originally did the graphics back in '68.
Wow.
And he's retired, but he still does some jobs. So if I can get it together in the near future, get the car, have the body work done. There are some damages that have been done to the car, earthquakes and jack stands and stuff. If I can get the body work done and the car painted, I'd like to get over to Southern California and have him put the paint on it.
Who was the person that did that?
The
Are you at liberty to say that?
Manuel Reyes.
Manuel Reyes.
Manny
okay.
Reyes.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Well, you bring
Yeah,
that car
he's
to
been
California to
over
the
there.
Grand National Roadster Show, and I'll put you right at the door in Building 5.
Oh,
She
that's
will, but
fantastic.
she sponsors Building
That's
5.
fantastic.
Yeah.
She'll have you there. But if you bring it in
Excellent.
for the striping and such, that'd be an ideal time for her to do the story on it and do the photographs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I would love to
absolutely.
invite you to Drag Fest if you want to come out and bring it and show it there. And but that's in April. You might not be done. But maybe the
Right.
following show you could bring it. And I think they would let you run that at Drag Fest because it's exhibition and whatever Randy wants, Randy gets. So
Yeah. Whatever you come out. I mean, if you make it out, if you can make it out to an event with us, we're glad to have you here on the show as well. But I know that car, even without the lettering,
no, that's
would draw
sexy.
huge crowds.
Look, wait, back up, Bruce. Look at that. That is so. That just turns me on. I'm sorry.
That picture right there on the scene on the screen. I just got that original picture from Dino Dionisio, the crew chief of the car. He had that in his personal collection, and he allowed me to put it on my website. He had to lay down feet first, facing the car as it took off.
Wow.
And to capture that picture, he wanted a straight-on shot. And he had to coordinate with Gary, okay, as soon as you take off, get up in the air. I'm going to snap some pictures and roll out of the way. And Gary's like, okay, I'm not going to be able to see you. I got to know which way you're rolling just in case something happens. And he's like, I don't want to explain to your bride why I smeared you all over the pavement.
It says Goodyear across your back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite picture of Shivato right there.
Oh, that's great.
Blowing up dust. It's just the best action shot.
Now, what track was that at?
That was actually at Chino Boys Prison.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Oh, the boys got a kick out of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they did a show there, and they brought out a lot of roadsters. I think I've got pictures of Gary doing a run in front of a bunch of beautiful cars, and I'm thinking, oh man, if he messes up, he's gonna take out a bunch. But he never had an issue on the track. He ran from 66 to 88. Father's Day of 88, he got out of the car not feeling well, went to the doctor, and they said, hang it up, son. So from 88 until I took it, it's just been sitting. In fact, I was over at his house, and I was talking about buying an old beat-up four-door 57 just to have a project car. And he's like, why would you buy that? And I'm like, well, I can afford it, and it's really the only thing around. He's like, why don't you buy Shavato? And his wife almost fell down. She had to steady herself. She's like, oh my gosh, Gary, people have been trying to get Shavato from you for decades. And he's like, you know what? I've thought about it, and Larry really respects the car. He's going to keep it true to form. And honestly, he's the only man I know that's crazy enough to do a 150-mile-an-hour wheelie.
Well, you know what they say, the cars go to the people who are the right conservators for them. So you're meant to be with the car. That's awesome. I can't wait to see it done and see you drive it. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. I can barely sit in my seat.
As long as all you're doing is sitting, you're fine.
It runs alcohol, and on the track, he did put 40% nitro in it, so it's almost a cackle car.
Wow.
Yeah, well, you know, that's something you could do. I mean, think about that, cackling. For
Right,
example, down
right.
in Verona this weekend, on Saturday, they've got
Correct.
the Nitro
Correct.
Revival. And Friday, we're going to be at Cruising Grand. I'm actually going to be down there as well. And we're actually going to run Top Fuel cars down Grand Avenue. And
that's fantastic.
They're going to be running. The drive lines will be disconnected. They'll be pushed down the track, but the nitro will be in the motors. They will be burning nitro and killing every mosquito in sight. Cruising Grand's good for that because they actually drive them. Another thing would be going to, say, the Good Guys show in Del Mar, where they have cruising lanes. And
Nice.
that's another way of doing it. And you're in Arizona. I don't know where you are in Arizona, but that's not that bad a drive, I don't think. About 4 or 5 hours to Del Mar, just north of San Diego.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, I'm hoping next spring, next summer, I get the opportunity to take it over there and do some of the shows. I'm going to be at Pomona next weekend, and I just want to check that out and see. I know they have a Hemi under glass there, and I want to show my daughter exactly, what vintage this car is. She's 13, and she helps me work on it.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely. And talk to Bob. He can give you some more of the history of the Hurst Hemi under glass. And I remember the big window car first. It wasn't until the 66, 67 model came out that they changed it to the one that he kind of rearranged last year. Yeah, and then there's a twin to that car, too. And I was at California Hot Rod Reunion this last year, and Bob was not there. The owner of the car was there, and when I came up to him asking for Bob, he was not real friendly.
He had already purchased the car from Bob.
Yeah.
And
And
then
Bob
he let
was just
Bob wreck
driving
it.
Yeah.
He wasn't too happy
That's
about
so
that.
nice of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jay Leno was in it, so that's
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I had the piece. I
it
had the
okay.
piece of taillight. He wasn't real happy about that. Oh, you're the one. I go, okay. I'll see you later now. And we moved away from that.
Well,
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're restoring the car. I'm glad that it's running and driving again. That's just amazing. And that is a car that has significant provenance in the hobby, in the sport. That is one
Absolutely.
of the. I think that was the only double duty wheel stander, where it was actually licensed for the street. I think all the others were purpose built.
It was actually built. He built it with street strip and show in mind, and he wanted to do all of those things and do it well. And I'd say mission accomplished.
Yeah, I definitely. That was just such an amazing car, and I remember, Larry, I do appreciate you calling in.
yeah.
And this has been great. We're looking forward to seeing it. I know Anna, like I said, she will write the story on this.
Oh, yeah.
on the car for you.
Excellent. My number and email address and everything's on the website.
Yep.
Give me a holler, shoot me an email, and we'll work something out as far as the story goes.
All right.
I wanted Gary here with me today, but he's not available now.
Oh,
and
okay.
that guy knows so much about this car. It's unbelievable. If you ever want him on the show, let me know. And,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we'll have you both come back, and maybe you could show us more build photos on what you're doing with the car and how you're putting it together. And I love the original graphics. I think you should do that.
And
Yeah.
I'd love
Yeah,
to talk
you
to
know-
Gary too, because like I said, I knew him from Van Nuys Boulevard, and that was 40 some years ago. I had dark hair and weighed 100 pounds less, but that's another story altogether. But yeah, and Gary, I do remember Gary. I remember the car. The car it was embedded in my mind, and when I saw your posts on it, it was like, wow. Well, I think we both we were on Facebook, and someone had posted something about Hollywood George Tours. And then
Correct.
you posted something about the Silverado, and I go, wait a minute, I remember that. And I put my comments down, which were basically I remembered from Van Nuys Boulevard and the scene back then. So that's how we got in contact. That's one of the great things about Facebook. Get rid of
Right.
the politics and just put the car stuff in there, and we're fine.
Exactly.
So anyway, we're going to take a little commercial break now. I do appreciate you calling in, Larry, and keep us posted as to your progress on this. And like I said, if you ever get to Southern California, you're definitely on the show.
Excellent. Okay, hey, thanks for the show. I
Take
appreciate
care.
it, Bob.
Say hello to Gary for us, too.
Will do. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. All right, Bruce, we're going to take a little commercial break here, catch our wind, not let Anna have any more caffeine, and we'll be back in just a few moments.
From Pontiac comes the one-of-a-kind 84 Firebird Trans Am. You can order it with aerodynamic ground effects, a high-output 5-liter V8, high-tech turbo wheels, and a close ratio 5-speed. And knowing you probably will. Trans Am, only from Pontiac.
Every generation or so, some smart guys come along who figured out how to make basic transportation at an affordable price. The old car in every garage idea. Well, introducing the same old idea. The Yugo, imported from Europe for only $39.90. Basic transportation, affordable price. The Yugo, at $39.90, it's the road back to sanity.
All right, welcome back. Anna's got a lot more gas than we thought.
No, I don't.
And we don't know
I have
what kind it
nitro
is.
and
It's-
octane.
no, it's-
You have gas.
You just have
I have
nitrous.
additive.
You have additive? Yeah. Well, see, we figured something out. And women do not pass gas.
No.
No, because they're talking so much. If they if they stop talking, the pressure builds up. It's got to go someplace. In the case of men, we are more reserved. We're quieter. The pressure builds up. We don't open our mouth. It's got to go someplace else.
You are so bad.
I know. Just ask my wife. She can do it. Hey, we've got someone on the phone with us, and we're wearing his shirts tonight. Yes, we are. We've got Bobby Schlegel. And look at that. Bruce has got
There they
the
are.
new bright yellow one. Anna and I have
Hello,
the old
guys.
black ones.
In fact, the black ones are my specialty because those are both my cars on the black one.
Right. Yes, we've
Hells
got,
are popping and alley-oop.
Yep, we've got those, and Bruce has got the new one on. It was kind of neat that he wore that one, I wore the black one, Anna's holding the black one, and we're going, oh,
Yeah,
wow,
by the
good
way,
timing.
thanks for not sending me one. I'm stealing Bruce's. This is now my shirt.
They don't have that. They didn't do lady shirts again this
That's
year.
okay. I'll wear them big and baggy. I don't care.
I'm going to
So,
say she
yeah.
needs them, but I'm not going to say
don't
why.
listen to anything this man says.
Why should you start now? I mean, come on. So, Bobby, how did the event go?
Oh, the event was awesome. Dino Lawrence, he used to be the announcer and stuff. They call him Dino the Weirdo. He was a pinstriper and letterer. He's got his own shop and everything in Carolinas, and he just kicked butt on the show this year. The blowing fuel altereds, the two blowing the 200-mile-an-hour dragsters. Charlie, for the first time, he got 205 miles an hour out of his dragster for the best 2 out of 3. I don't know if you remember from New York and Brooklyn, the Pacers from the 50s and 60s.
I remember them.
They got the George and his son Scott have the tribute car that was built in Arizona for him, and they bought it because the gentleman out in Arizona retired. So now Scott's making pass with an NHRA legal AA fuel altered, with just dressed up and lettered just like the original Pacers car. And
I
his
think we
dad's
did
the-
a story on them for Old School Rods magazine back in the day when they were
Oh, really?
first. Yeah, I remember them. That's
In
great.
fact, they're awesome people. They were Scott. In fact, Scott has the camera on the altered, and he made a pass and the throttle stuck.
Oh.
And he was supposed to stop at the 8 mile. He says, "Why did I just see the big finish line?" And then he lets it float there, and he kept it under control. He shut it down, made the turn, parachute came out, the whole bit. And the other two other big issues for the show this year was Dino talked to the group from Pennsylvania and Central New York with the 409 cars, and the car has to be powered with either 348 or 409 to be in a group. And they came down with 12 cars, and my friend Paulie Galvin, whose daughter drives the twin engine front engine 409 dragster called Gravy Train, and she drives that. So that's the dragster that's in the group. And as I mentioned when I sent the notes out to you guys, sorry I didn't get no pictures and stuff done. Oh, there's some of the guys.
Wow, that's a nice little wagon.
Yep, and that Checkmate, that one there, that's an original Dover car, just with the color scheme different.
How fun.
And, yeah, you can, if anybody goes on the Facebook, the Dover Drag Strip, there's a bunch of stuff there. Those funny cars are awesome. There's that the little Tin Indian is the original gasser from back then. And I got to tell you the highlights of the Chevromoco car, too. That was Bobby Lagana, who's a gentleman and fellow racer, and he was our version of like Mickey Thompson with everything he came out with and did. That Chevromoco was his Falcon with the Chevy big block Chevy in it injected, and the axle stuck all the way out past the front bumper. And that was one of the cars he was known for. Didn't handle well. Not too many tracks really liked him being there, but it was Bobby's ideas, and they let him run it. And then he did a 68 Camaro injected, which was the beginning of the funny cars, but it had the door, so we used to have to crawl through to get into the seat and everything. And then the other car was a 71 Challenger, blown, regular funny car back then. And the first time in any place that we can get any history of from any of the other shows, all three of those cars, which were Bobby Lagana Sr., were at the Dover show.
Wow.
Wow, it's like a family reunion.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And his two sons are on the Steve Torrance's Top Fuel team. They're crew chiefs for them.
So they're still heavily involved, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're running for the
and
points.
Then, yeah, I think he's got like 21-point lead on him now. And he's doing pretty good. And then my highlight with Hell's a Poppin' was they were walking around, and one of the guys comes up to me and says, "You know that young lady walking around with her husband?" I says, "No, I never met her." She says, "That's Marie Lagana. That's Dom and Bobby's sister. I cackled Hell's a Poppin' with her in it."
Oh,
wow.
nice.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got a video clip of that, and I'm just trying to get some time so I can sit down and mix these together and get them out to you on the disc and stuff. And so far I got about 225, about 250-something pictures of the show so far.
Man.
And yeah, it was an outrageous show. We had more cars. There was, for the 2 days, there was a car count of 575 race cars.
That's big.
That is big.
And this is only the 9th year. Next year, Dino's going to 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Wow.
He's going to start eliminations on Saturday for the shootouts and stuff.
I'm going to have to try and make it back for that one.
Yeah, me too. Did you bring Alley Oop to that show?
I brought Hell's a Poppin' out because it was... I didn't have Hell's a Poppin' out for a couple of years, and it was like a family reunion. Everybody's come walking around the corner, and the guys are just going, "Yay, it's back out again!" And it was good to have it out, and it was comfortable, and it was an awesome weekend, and the weather was great. All the rain went around us, and the track was pretty quick, and it was just awesome. I mean, Saturday I walked around. I didn't pull Hell's a Poppin' out of the trailer until late in the day, and I just walked around to see some racing and see friends from the other groups that were there. Nito, East Coast Gasser, and Mandra. Nito was there with 47 cars just between them, that one group.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, they have a nostalgia group and a comp class, and between both classes they had 47 cars there. That was a double 2-point meet. Saturday and Sunday was separate points meet for them.
Wow.
And, East Coast Gassers
you
had
little
20...
New York racers are keeping things hidden from us SoCal people.
Yeah. Northeast is... Northeast is still around.
That
you
is
know?
awesome. I like that
Yeah.
there's a girl driving a race car called the Gravy Train.
Yeah, that's my good friend Paulie Galvin, and he built the dragster. He built the chassis himself in his friend's fabrication shop, and the shop was called Junkyard Racing because John, back in the days when he started making stuff, he used to go to Junkyard and get parts for the Roundy Round cars when Danbury Race Arena was still going. And so the nickname stuck, Junkyard, and that's what he's known as. So Paulie built the dragster at Junkyard Racing over 16 years ago. It's all certified for 7.0, and Caroline's running 850s, 845s to 850s with the blown 409 in
Wow.
it. And he had the other second motor in it, but he cracked the side of the block and pushed the piston out when he was up in New Hampshire testing it. So she only ran with the one motor, the blown motor in it.
Well, drag racers are quite capable of disassembling their vehicles while in motion, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and but Caroline just she's got it down. If you look at her and there's a girl going for a Masters and everything, and she's running 850s in the
That a
blown
girl.
409 dragster.
Nice.
Yep.
Why not?
But
So are you
Yeah,
guys
it-
getting ready? Are you already organizing next year's show?
oh yeah, Dino's already getting the sponsors lined up. In fact, most of the sponsors that were there, we have Moroso as one of the main sponsors. Because Dick Moroso was an original Dover guy, so his son is keeping the legend going with the father, Moroso with that. S&W race cars come in, and I don't know if I can promote sponsors of the show,
Sure.
but
Why not? Yes, definitely.
a bunch of East Coast of whatever's on the bottom of that flyer are the major sponsors on there, and I sponsored the original Dover cars, the Dover Legends cars. So I had 10 cars in there alone, just original Dover cars, including Bobby Lagana's 3 cars.
Wow, that's great.
then-
Well, that's
Yeah.
great that they sponsor and support the the nostalgia drag movement still going, because we need that. We appreciate that.
Yeah, they're doing really good. There was, in fact, talking about Lagana, it made me think of it when that gentleman was there with the wheel stand in '56 at a '55.
Yeah.
Bobby Lagana had a '56 Nomad wagon, but he put a '55 nose on it because it was lighter than the '56 nose, and he was C-gas record holder for like 2 years.
That's a car with
It
an
drove
identity
tech-
crisis.
Yeah,
Now
it
that's
drove tech
secret
crazy.
tech tricks
Yeah.
for
Yep.
eliminating weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on the Dover classes that are being scanned now, there was 24 speed in the 4-speed Dover class. There was 20 cars. 77 new. There was 10 cars. Dover modifieds, I think there was 10 cars, and Dover vintage. And then he has Dover second generation. Those are the sons of the fathers
Wow.
that used to race at Dover, and we had 4 cars in there. The ones that couldn't make it was the Moorheads. They're a big super stock racer in the Northeast. They were already committed to to race at another points meet.
Well, that's
Yep.
great that you've got the first and second generation guys coming out, and you've got so many cars in your classes, which just proves that nostalgia drag racing is the hot ticket right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and the bleachers, they can probably hold about 500 people in the bleachers, and they were packed. Well, it's tough to see there, but that's one of the Nito cars.
See, now
the
that's
Wilco
sexy.
brothers.
Ah, I love that.
There's an East Coast Gasser group. That's one of theirs.
Yeah.
That's my friend Tony's Nova. That's an 850 car. Yeah, the racing was unbelievable, and that's my friend Chris Kraft. He's with Nito. That's another 850. And that's got a
Rigor mortis. That's cool.
Oh, that is
Yep.
a sweet car.
Yeah.
yeah.
And they even got a truck. That's
Yeah.
nice, too. Boy, look
Yep.
at those guys. They all need tire sponsors.
That's one of the ones we can't get to come in yet. They don't want to. For some reason that we can't get them to knock on a door and come over.
Because they know they're going to be coughing up a lot of rubber. That's why.
Yeah, and Howie.
Now, are you guys using bleach, or what are you using in the...
just regular water?
Okay.
These guys
Just
know
water.
how to run that.
There's a hose in the middle. He looks to the left, looks to the right. If the driver points down, he gets some more water. If the driver flags it's okay, they leave it alone. And most of the time, they just smoke them up and run down. And Howie, the commander who owns the track, he'll send, like in the morning, he puts the tractor out with the tires on the back, and he puts some rubber down. Then he'll spray some traction compound and burn that in a little bit.
Now, these guys
And-
really know how to put on a show. We love
yeah, they're
those
awesome.
long, smoky burnouts.
Yeah. Smoke them if you
they-
got them.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we had the Aldridge. They were running 8 Mile, and they were setting the mile-an-hour lights when they were going past the 8 Mile, doing the burnouts. They had to back them up all the way back up again.
You guys need some backup
fun.
girls, though. Where's your girls in the boots and the short skirts?
Not too many around here in the Northeast.
I'm
Most of the
coming
ones up
out
around-
there in my gold lame go-go dress. I'll show those girls
There
a
you go.
thing or two.
There you go.
Yep. That'll be. We had a couple of the girls were in the team there and stuff, but they just, the regular shorts and the work boots and stuff. Because once they're done with that, they're back inside and they're up to elbows, either pulling the motors apart or doing something, doing the shoots and reading the computers and everything. And,
You get some chick out there like Jungle Pam, you'll have double the attendance in the grandstands.
She had an appointment this weekend. Dina was on the phone with her, talking to her. She said she's sorry she couldn't make it because she heard about how big it's getting and stuff.
That's
So,
awesome.
if we can, and what was nice was this year with Lebanon Valley, because he's also got a half, I think it's a 3/8 mile dirt track down there. So he, sometimes when we're racing during the summer, we have to be finished on a drag strip by 5 o'clock, because when the modifieds start racing on a dirt track, dirt comes out on a track, and then they got to sweep the track for Sunday morning.
That's cool.
So it's a two thing, but everything was done this weekend. All of his racing was done. That's the original Rat Pack 1.
Wow.
You guys are rocking it. This is rad. I'm so happy to see this.
Yeah, thanks. It's that's an original Dover car, the Willie the Welder's car, that little MG. Yeah, I mean,
there's Nomad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
There
great
it is.
shot from above there.
I'm
Yeah,
coming
that's
to
a
your
fun
show.
We got open wheelbase cars there and everything.
Oh,
It's,
a motorcycle. Look at that.
Yeah, we got that's an original drag Harley from 69 to 70.
All
Yeah.
right, Bobby, we're going to let you go. All
right, I appreciate it.
Get some other
Thank
stuff in.
you.
Thank you for calling in. We're just going to call you our East Coast correspondent.
Yes.
There you go. And,
You're
everything works
officially
out
on the
next year.
team.
So I appreciate it, and thanks for wearing the colors. And I'll keep you in touch, and I'll try and get that discount to you for the next show with some more action stuff from this year's again.
All
too.
right, that'd be great. I appreciate it, Bobby. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Be safe out there. Talk to you.
Definitely. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I love that. Talk
Well,
to
this
you.
was just an
Yeah.
exciting show. My heart's pounding. I'm so excited. I'm easy to
All right.
please.
Joe Balon, were you able to pull something up on him? For those of you into the custom car scene, we lost another icon over the weekend, and they're going. I mean,
Yeah, our
Barras,
legends.
Hines, Balon. Now, these are the guys that created the customs that we grew up with.
Now, Joe Balon is considered the father of candy apple red paint.
Yeah.
It took him 10 years to figure out how to do that. He was experimenting with the gold, pearl base with red and clear, and he finally hit upon it. And there's some other guys that say that they were working with that paint in the beginning too, but he's the one who's most known for it. And he was 94. He had a nice,
Well, he had a
sweet,
good
long
run.
life, and people loved him. And it was sudden, and I'm sure he didn't suffer, and we are going to miss him. He was quite a pioneer.
Yeah, when you put the combined talents of Barris, Balon, and Hines together, can you imagine the cars they could have come up with as a team?
No kidding.
They would have put the Detroit Dream cars.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, Detroit was stealing ideas from them. The sunken aerials, the fins, the exhaust on the side. So, I mean, they did contribute to style on the American auto scene. So we'll be forever grateful to guys like Joe, and we send our condolences to his family and friends, and we love you, Joe, and we'll miss you.
Yeah, definitely someone will miss the West Coast Customs events. So I believe he used to come out to that on a regular basis. Didn't
Yeah, but toward the end he wasn't feeling real well, and a friend of mine, Mike Garner, was close friends with him and would go and visit him quite often, and they still would talk about cars, and so he was still had the passion for it up to the very end.
Well, and as long as we're giving a shout out about people, we've got a guy who's under the weather right now, pretty much, but he was a icon in the custom car painting here in Southern California, and you know him, and I know him. He had He was in Burbank. He did a bunch of paint. He actually pinstriped my van back in the 70s.
Who is that?
I'm going blank.
Billy?
Billy.
No.
No.
Yes?
Yes.
Billy's not feeling good?
Bill Carter.
Oh my God, I have to make a phone call. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Bill Carter's a little under the weather. He's had some health issues as a lot of the icons, the people that made the history, are getting older in time. We don't get younger. I mean, older.
I never get older.
No,
I just
no.
get rude.
Hey, well, teach me how. I'll exchange old
I get
for
rude.
rude.
You know, the older I get, the more bold I am. I'm like, can I caress your stick shift? I just love that. Do you know what I did? I did
No.
a bad thing.
No, you.
It's so bad. I have a family member who's a fireman, so I like to harass firemen.
Yeah.
And I drove up next to one of them, and I said, this was recently, I won't say when, but I
okay.
said, hey, they look at me because I rolled down the window. I'm like, hey, do you know why firemen are sexy? He's like, oh God, why? I'm like, because they can carry big hose. And then I drove off.
And they probably just go, oh, man, that's the 10th,
I'm so
10th
bad.
time today.
Yeah. That one again.
Yeah. Didn't we just see her over in La
Just
Puente?
like, I'm not shy anymore, whereas before I would never say anything like that.
They put her picture up on the wall. Be careful if this woman drives up alongside you. Beware.
I'm going to call Billy.
Octane.
I feel bad. Yeah, I do have high octane.
That's
By
what
the
we were
way-
talking about earlier, wasn't it?
I don't think we ever actually got around to this. I'm going to read what's written here on the
Okay.
presidential proclamation because it's
Oh,
kind of hard to
good.
read.
Yeah.
It says, driving slowly in the left lane, blocking people from passing is now punishable by death.
Yay! Finally.
Okay. Then see what you need then is you need James Bond's Austin Martin, the one that would shoot out the front.
Oh, love
Yes.
that car.
Yeah, the DB5 or DB6, whatever it was.
Yes, and I think that was the same one that would spew oil out the back if he was being followed.
Yeah, it had all the good things. You know, it had the knockoff nuts that would come loose and cut the side of your car open.
Yeah.
Had the ejection seat. That's good if you've got a mother-in-law you don't get along with.
Yes, or that I think it was a Lotus Esprit, or it was
Yeah, the
of
one that went
things-
underwater, yeah.
yeah, it was a submarine car. And of course, there was that one movie. I don't remember which one, but it was one of the Roger Moore movies where they were in a 72, 73 Mustang, the big fat Mustang, and it went up on two wheels for a while as they're driving down an alley. And I'm thinking, man, that's a lot of weight on two tires because those cars got heavy.
Well, you know, you think about that for a second. In 1964, I went to the New York World's Fair. Joey Chitwood had his Hell Drivers display or program going on. It was sponsored by Chrysler or Dodge, and he used Dodges. And that was one of the things they did. They got up on two wheels and drove around the display area, the track that they had set up at the World's Fair. And it was amazing for me to see, as a young kid, these guys, skill of putting a car up on two wheels sideways. And keeping it that way. It wasn't
Keeping
just
it that way.
momentarily.
Yeah.
They were driving it, and they could drive almost around the track area on the sidewalls of the tires.
God, that is amazing.
And
I
then-
want to do that. I want to learn how to do that. I would do that in the shopping
Mall, you would.
lot at Kmart or something.
Yes, you would. I can see that now. I'm taking that spot right there. Get out of my way. Here I come. Watch me put this in the front door.
Well, and of course, the cars you're talking about, Bob, those would have been heavy cars, full-size
1964 Dodges is what they used back in the day.
Man.
And then I saw Joey Chitwood, his Hell Drivers come up to Lancaster, to the Antelope Valley Fairgrounds.
Wow.
And do the same thing up there.
Does anybody do that anymore? Because that was
don't think so.
sensational stuff.
It
Now, would
was.
that be considered a wheel stander if you were on two side wheels instead of up on the
Side
back?
wheels.
You know, sort of.
Kind
I
of,
think
yeah.
so.
A wheel leaner.
Yeah. I'm doing a wheeler. It's not a wheelie, it's a wheeler.
Wheeler.
By the way, those James Bond prop cars are worth a lot of money, high
They
seven
are,
figures.
if you can find them.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
that haven't been shot up.
they're in
Of course, they
private
blew up
collection.
the DB5.
I'll take a wheel stander.
You'll take a wheel sander. Hi, Bruce. Oh,
I cannot believe
to
it.
you.
Are we done already? We had some of the most
Oh,
fascinating
so much
wheels
fun.
on
it
tonight's
went
show.
on great. It went fine.
Man. Well, you know what happens next, of course, the encore presentation of the show. Where are you guys? What's going on this weekend? What's happening?
Cruising Grand down in Escondido.
Okay.
Corona.
Nitro Revival.
Nitro Revival.
Yeah,
Go down
be
there. They
there.
got, I believe it's over 30 nitro car is going to be cackling. John Lungberg is coming in to do the introductions. Mike English will be working in the tower and on track. I'll be doing the announcing for the Cruising Grand. That's Escondido, the final cruise night of the season. We'll be running top fuel cars down the streets.
I'll be running amok in my go-go boots.
Yes, you will.
Running amok is a
Running
great phrase.
amok.
That's how she gets her steps in each day.
Yeah.
Running
amok.
And jumping to conclusions.
Yes.
Oh, man, with that, as if you'd want to see any of the last 2 minutes, but really the rest of the show was great.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, so that's coming up next. And, hey, Bob, Anna,
Yeah.
good to see you guys again.
Bye. Thanks
Bye.
for coming. Y'all come back now, you hear?
That's right. In a couple of weeks, that'll be the case. So
That is.
we'll talk to you then.
All right. Take care, everybody.